there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I am coming to you on this Saturday morning. It is May the 3rd, 2025, and I am here with a stitchy update video. We are here to talk about some stitching that I have done over the last week and a half or so, almost 2 weeks, and to talk about some April statistics and some May plans. All fun, stitchy things. Before I get into that though, welcome everybody. Welcome to both my returning viewers as well as anybody who is new here. Perhaps you have clicked on my video for the first time. Thank you everybody so much for spending part of your day with me today. Big love for you guys. So, as I said, a lot of stitchy stuff. Not a lot of extraneous things. I'm not talking about books or knitting today. I have done some knitting on a project that I don't think I've worked on in over a year, and I have been working on that pretty steadily. And I'm reading. I'm gonna save that conversation for a different time, and today we're gonna focus on the stitching. My husband and my daughter are out. They went out to breakfast this morning, and then they are doing the Saturday morning grocery run. My husband is going to be out of town next week, so this is kind of my Mother's Day quiet time, and so I thought I would be sure to try to film a video because I won't be able to in the coming week. Between the forecast that looks like it's going to be very rainy, I'm not mad at it, and just full-time solo parenting for a little while. I don't think I'm going to be able to film in the next week, so got to do this today. So here we are talking about some stitchy things. So, SPRINGO finished up, and that finished up on Friday, April 25th. Speaking of Friday, April 25th, thank you all so much for your birthday wishes. That was my 37th birthday, and it was another quiet day. I did some good stitching, I ate some good food. It was very chill, very relaxed, and it was wonderful. And I just so appreciate all of the birthday wishes I received, either here on YouTube or on other social media platforms. Thanks, y'all. That was really nice. I have this conversation often because celebrating birthdays feels kind of silly. I didn't do anything. I just made it. You know, like, my birthday really should be dedicated to my mom. Fortunately, my mom's birthday is the day after mine, and so that is totally feasible. But yeah, it feels very silly to celebrate my birthday and to feel that kind of love on a day that all I did was get born, and then I made it. Anyway, so thanks for the birthday wishes, y'all. But like I said, SPRINGO finished up that day, and then we had a few days left of April, and I worked on some unexpected things, and then we kicked off May, and May for me is page finish May. So I am spending some time this month focusing on full coverage page finishes, and I have 2 already. Today is May 3rd, and I have 2 already, and I'm geeked about it. I'm so excited. So let's get into it and start talking about some stitchy things. I guess I'll address this first. My t-shirt, it says, I went to Miles Smith concert. Miles Smith is an up and coming, and he, you may recognize him by his most popular song right now is Stargazing. My brother got tickets for his show in DC, and we went and saw that on Monday, and it was so good. It was so good. It was Miles's last stop on this tour in the States, and so just I think like a day later he's now in Australia. For a few shows in Australia and one in Auckland, New Zealand. So it was the last stop in the States, and it was the last with one of his guitarists, and it was the last with his opening band. His opening band was Tours, who I had never heard of before, and they were awesome. I am now a little bit obsessed and contemplating going to their concert. They're going to be in the States in the fall, so I'm contemplating that. But anyway, so Miles Smith, it was wonderful. It was so good. It was so good. I have been a huge fan of Miles Smith for about a year now, and that is only going to continue. So yeah, that's what my t-shirt says. Okay, now let's get into the stitching things. So the plan of action here for the SPRINGO things is that I'm going to show you the projects that I worked on for SPRINGO for those last few days. And then afterwards, I'm going to do a before and after kind of montage of all 7 of my SPRINGO pieces, so that you can see the progress that I got through the whole of SPRINGO. Spoiler alert, it was fantastic. I had a really, really great time with it. So when last we spoke, I was working on Spring Dragon. I didn't show it to you in that video, but I mentioned that I was working on it for the SPRINGO call for that day, and then it ended up getting called again a little later on in the week. So that lives in this project bag. This is a stitch and button bag. As and when I can, the bag makers are listed in the description box of my videos. Stitch and button is always there because I am always showing one of Vic's bags. But this is Spring Dragon. Spring Dragon is by Ingleside Imaginarium. Preview here of what it will look like finished. And as I said, I worked on this for 2 days since my last video. And I made some really great progress. I did 1,195 stitches since my last video. And here is where I am currently. This is on a 32 count Belfast linen in Cauldron Bubble by Color and Cotton. It was in a Halloween mystery box from a long time ago, but I thought it was a pretty spring green, perfect for my Cherry Blossom Clad Dragon. So I am now at 5,281 stitches complete of 7,249 total stitches in the project before you count backstitch. I am at 72.85%. I have less than 2,000 stitches to go. Less than 2,000 to go. So that is where I got to with Spring Dragon. And this is one of my Year of Whips projects, so it's something that I would really like to try to get finished this year. We'll talk about it later, but I have a new whip go board. Created another one. And so I have the potential for this to come back out. So that is Spring Dragon. I love that piece. I have it in the plans that when I finish this one, I'm going to start another one by in Brittany's series. Okay, up next is Opening Gambit. Opening Gambit lives in this project bag. This was made by Diana of It Is Kismet Stitches. And Opening Gambit is by Long Dog Samplers. This was called One Last Time for SPRINGO. And I did 534 stitches on that one day. I could have done a lot more. As I ran into with this, I made the decision about midway through to stop my SPRINGO pieces at around 500 stitches and then switch over to something else. And so what I found with a lot of times is that I would do my 500 stitches and then want to keep going. And that was no less true than with this one. So this is on a 40 count Newcastle linen in Vintage Country Mocha. I am stitching this with DMC 902, 1 strand of floss over 2 fabric threads. And I was focusing on this side. So I made the decision to start working on this how I do a lot of things these days, and that is in 10 by 10 blocks, working my way down. And so I filled in this section. So your is done. And the R, I gotta tell you, so I knew it said your, but as I was stitching it, I was like, I don't see it. Like, I cannot see it. But then finished it up, stood back. Oh, yeah, there it is. So it says, I think your move now or something like that, or your move. This is something that I'm stitching for my husband. It's going to go in our board game room, and for long dog samplers, this one's fairly small, to the point where I could foresee finishing it, if I was to focus on it. It wouldn't take too terribly long. It's sum total 26,551 stitches. According to Pattern Keeper, Jen made sure to point out to me that this one in Pattern Keeper, it does some funny things. Long dogs usually do some funny things. And mine has the duplicate rows at the page breaks. So 26,551 is a little bit of a bloated number because I've got the duplicate rows. I am now at 4,353 stitches complete, bringing me to 16.39%. And you'll see it in the before and afters, but I basically did this during Springo. Yeah, very, very cool. So that is opening Gambit. Up next is probably the most improved project from Springo. I mean, all of them saw lots and lots of love, but this one, I made the most headway on it. So this was called One More Time, and it is living in this project bag. This is a bag by Black Cat X Stitchery, and in here lives Coffee Break. Coffee Break, this Coffee Break, I have another kit actually that's called Coffee Break. But this one is by Soda Stitch, and I started this for Stitch Asia in March of 22, I think, something to that effect. So this is Coffee Break, and I worked on this, like I said, one more day for Springo. I did 592 stitches, and could have gone a lot further. So here is where I am currently, and I am super pleased with the progress here. The fabric is a 40 count Newcastle linen in driftwood by Color and Cotton, and I was working on this coffee mug, finished that up, and then I did the little coffee sign and finished that up, which is why I went almost 100 stitches over my 500 stitch limit, because finishing that little banner there, that felt like a good milestone to reach before I put this away for probably the rest of the year, if I'm being honest with myself. However, I am now at 4,562 stitches complete of a total 12,508. That is 36.47% complete. I have a little less than 8,000 stitches. This could very well be a focus on a finish for next year. I may, if I can squeeze it in somewhere, try to get another 2,000 stitches or so on this, just to bring me to 6,000, because that would make it really super simple to finish next year. But I love it. I mean, I love it. It is fun, and I get to be methodical and particular about my order of operations. This is a lot of fun. These threads here are parked for the little cupcakes there underneath the coffee. So that is where I'm up to with Coffee Break. Love that. Love that so much. This one I did like 2,500 stitches, I think, total during Springo. It was wonderful. My last call for Springo, so on my birthday, was my birthday start. So that was really cool to get to work on this one again. That was pretty fun, and for it to come on the very last day of Springo. So I'm referring to a project that lives in this bag, for which I don't know the maker. I don't have a tag or anything on this one. But this is my Strawberry Sampler. Strawberry Sampler is by the Vivsters. I'll be honest, Strawberry Sampler is a bit of a misnomer because preview here. There is one band in the, what I counted to be 18 bands. There's one band with strawberries in it. So it's kind of a misnomer. But I got a really significant start on this during SPRINGO, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So this is on a 40 count Newcastle linen in cream from Zweigart. Stitching this using the called for DMCs, which is, there are 4 blues and 5 red pinks. And I am halfway through what I have called the second band. Halfway through it. So on the 25th, I did 516 stitches. I am now at 3,101 stitches complete of a total 34,085, which brings me to 9.10%. Now, I said that this was my birthday start. I started it earlier because it was a SPRINGO piece. And I toyed with the idea of trying to get to 3,700 stitches because I turned 37 this year, but that would have been another 600 stitches, and I had to move on. So that is where I got to with Strawberry Sampler. Oh, I love it. This style of stitching, this style of pattern just checks boxes for me. It is so much fun. And it's really, really pretty. Really, really pretty. Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. And that concluded SPRINGO. So after I'm done talking here, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put up the montage of the before and afters for all of my SPRINGO projects. Yeah, I had such a good time with SPRINGO. I will admit that the last few days, I wanted projects to double up days. Like, I wanted to work on things for multiple days in a row. And except for one pair of days, I had no repeats back to back. I had no projects that were held over for more than a single day. And so the constant switching got somewhat tedious towards the end, and I was very much looking forward to a lengthy rotation by the end. But I worked on everything at least 3 times. Let me show you this. So here's my SPRINGO board at the end. I finally got wise and decided to fully color in the boxes because my last rendition was very difficult to read. So I was coloring the boxes. Y'all, do you see not a single bingo, not a single line, not one. Diagonals technically didn't count, but I do have a diagonal of 5. Let me see if I can directionally figure this out. There we go. So I do have one diagonal of 5, but otherwise not a single bingo. So fun. Which is, you know, it's totally cool because I wasn't participating in any official capacity. I just thought it was so fun that I wouldn't get a single bingo. But I had a lot of fun. I was just enjoying it. I was on my phone at about 8 o'clock my time every night, refreshing to see if Carolyn made the new post. It was a lot of fun. And then it came to 8 o'clock on the 25th, and I went, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do? But yeah, so this was a lot of fun. I mean, we'll see how the summer goes and what evolves with my stitching plans, but I may be playing along for AB Singo in September. AB Singo is different from this one because on that one we have the probability of a blackout. And this one, it was not doable. This is a 35 space board and only 25 numbers were called. So anyway, so that was fun. I really enjoyed SPRINGO, and montage of before and afters start here. Strawberry Sampler was but one of my 3 starts that I had in April. So let's talk about the other 2. This next one I may restart, and we'll talk about it here in a second. But it lives in this project bag. This is a stitch and button bag. Gorgeous, gorgeous spider webs and flowers and spiders. And here lives, appropriately, my greenhouse of oddities. So everybody, a lot of folks anyway, have started the Extraordinary Bird Sale, and just a bunch of folks are zooming right on through. I know a couple of folks who have finished the frames and are ready for first bird releases here. I think, is it next week or the week after? Something like that. And I'm so excited for everybody participating in Extraordinary Birds, and I can't wait to see what all the releases are and how it translates. But being that mystery sales are not really my thing, I decided to start Greenhouse of Oddities, which was the sale from 2 years ago, I think. So I hemmed and hawed. I went through my fabric. I knew I wanted to do it on a 40 count. And I hemmed and hawed over what I had. I was envisioning a Greenhouse of Oddities. I can't help it. I was envisioning a green, but I didn't really have any. I have a ton of color and cotton, and I didn't really have any that leaned green enough. And so I decided to go purple, because I had this is called The Gray Stuff by Grace Notes, the Beauty and the Beast reference. This is a 46 count, and I started this on Earth Day, April 22nd. I thought it was a good day to start. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of a headache, and 46 count is not a problem when I don't have a headache. Especially a dyed 46 count that gets a little tight. So, but that's not why I think I want to restart this. That's not why I think I need to restart it, really. Here's where I got to. I got to a bird, which I thought that was pretty funny. And that is top center. And it is so small and wee and gorgeous. Just gorgeous. And I really, really like this colorway. But here's the thing. There is backstitch in this. And on 46 count, my stitches are so tiny that backstitch with a single strand of DMC, it's gonna look bulky. There is some writing, and there's backstitch, and it's gonna look really bulky on the 46 count. I think it might look a little bulky on 40 count too, but I think that is more manageable. I know that I've heard Sarah Stitch and Mommy talk about backstitching with Gutermann's silk, which is more of a sewing thread than an embroidery thread. And so I may look into that. The thing is that this calls for a lot of different colors, and I don't have any of it. So I'm going to do some more research before I fully call it. And in the meantime, I might order this colorway in a 40 count and sort of cross those bridges when we get there. But I love it, and I want to stitch this so bad. These stitches are tiny. They are itty bitty. And because it's dyed, these stitches are pretty close to my 1/1 on 25 count size stitches. Yeah, tiny, tiny. So anyway, that is my little start on Greenhouse of Oddities. And like I said, I can't wait to watch y'all stitch Extraordinary Birds. I have loved all of the sales released by Lola Crow. And eventually I will stitch Extraordinary Birds. I just have to stitch it in my own order of things. Okay, up next is kind of a surprise. new start. I was not anticipating starting this, but it was my birthday and I reached my 500 on Strawberry Sampler, and I was on Instagram and I happened to see a story from Lily at 42 Stitches. April 25th is the anniversary of the Carnation Revolution, the liberation of Portugal. They were under a tyrannical regime, and a very peaceful coup took place that ousted this tyranny and brought about democracy for the nation of Portugal. And so that is kind of referenced on April 25th every year. April 25th is a lot of things. It's my birthday. It is Jonathan Bailey's birthday if you watched Wicked or Bridgerton or the new Jurassic World. It is Anzac, so essentially Memorial Day for Australia and New Zealand. What else is April 25th? It's a lot of things. It's Miss Congeniality Day. Miss Rhode Island mentions April 25th as the perfect date. And it is also the Carnation Revolution anniversary. And so I felt compelled to start this project. So I have it living in this stitch and button bag. Super gorgeous, super pretty. And this is one of the Nashville releases from Stitchy Bros. Holly over at Stitchy Bros. I have no idea why my brain blanked there. So this is Azulejos, or Portuguese Tiles, by Stitchy Bros. And I haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but I went to Nashville Needlework Market to help out with Stitchy Bros. So I was in her room helping out for 2 of the 3 days. The third day I got sick, and so I was not around people. But I was helping out for those first couple of days, and I got to see all of the models, and there is just something so special about being at Nashville and getting to see things in person. So Holly and her family took a trip to Portugal not terribly long ago. Was it this last year or the year before? And they purchased some azulejos. So azulejos, azul, the sort of root of that word azul means blue, translates to blue, but not all of the tiles are blue. It's just the title that is given to the tiles. Anyway, so they purchased these tiles, and they are about, I'd say 4x4 maybe. And so Holly created this pattern to sort of commemorate the trip and also to translate those tiles into cross stitch. And this project is so special because the blue that you see here is Gentle Arts Cerulean, which was one of their new releases for this year that they designed for this. They designed that colorway for this piece, and I just think that's just really special. And it's called Cerulean, which was my favorite crayon out of the 96 colors box when I was a kid. So it feels very special. And add to that, my family is going to Portugal at the end of this summer. It's not going to work out for us to be able to go along, but my mom and my brother and aunt and uncle are going to Portugal this summer. And so I just thought that would be just kind of a commemoration for their trip. So I started it on my birthday, and I also worked on it at a Stitchy meetup. So it is still in my Nurge. So let me show you where I got to. So I actually had a false start with this. I had originally started it on 32 count vintage Stormy Night from Zweigart, which is one of the printed fabrics. 2 strands over 2. And my stitches looked terrible. They were horrendous. Not to mention I was going to eat floss. I wanted to stitch it on the 32 count because I wanted the tiles to be bigger and I wanted the threads to really stand out. I wanted to be able to see the variegation. And 40 count, it's definitely more subtle. But like I said, on the 32 count, my stitches looked bad. So I switched to the 40 count. I had this strip of cream from, I think this is Cut Off My Pandemic. And I decided to go with the plain linen for two reasons. First of all, the dyed 40 count, it's smaller. And so this plain 40 count, the stitches would be a little bit bigger, so a little bit larger of a finished piece. And second of all, this is like 95% full coverage. The only empty space is the 2 stitch margins between each tile and the outside border. Otherwise, this is full coverage. The white that you see there is a stitched section. All of the white is stitched. So a plain fabric I thought was better suited. Won't detract from anything. Now I am using the thread pack, sort of. I decided to swap out the chalk for DMC 3865, I believe. Nope, I went with what Holly said. She said Blanc. Okay, so I'm using Blanc, DMC white, for in place of the chalk. And then, so my skeins of espresso are fairly solid, and so I decided to go with the DMC for that as well. Oh, espresso bean. My apologies. So I went with the DMC for that, but otherwise I am using the called for. So let me pull out my threads here. So it's just 5 colors. The gold is toffee, the blue is that new cerulean, and then the deep dark green is blue spruce. So there is my threads for azulejos, and I love it. I love it a lot. I love it a lot. So this is something that I did rechart into my pattern software so that I can stitch it with Pattern Keeper, so I can give you these statistics. I am at 914 stitches complete of a total 7,336. I'm at 12.46% complete. And yeah, it's gorgeous. Super, super pretty. So this is something that I would very much like to get back to. Try to get at least the first tile done this year. I think that would be really cool. This is a good on-the-go project because it's sections of color. So we'll see. We'll see what more progress I can get done this year. So that was on the 25th, and then again on the 27th while I was at my stitching meetup. So I worked on 2 other projects for those last few days of April. And you may recall that I hemmed and hawed. I really had a lot of thoughts about what I might do for those last 5 days. Because I am in sort of limbo with Greenhouse of Oddities, I'm not sure how I'm going to proceed with that. I knew I wasn't going to spend those last few days with Greenhouse as much as I would have loved to. I didn't want to get too much further and then make the decision to switch to 40 count. So I went back to my wheel. And I also was working on categories. So Sammy J Stitches does 5 categories for each month. And I have been playing along for a couple of years now. And I had one left that I hadn't quite got to. And that was fancy. It's technically listed as fancy lady, but I would personally stretch that out to say fancy person. So I went to my random generator for a project and basically spun it until I got a fancy person. And it came up with this project that I haven't worked on in ages. I haven't worked on this in so long. I don't think I've worked on it since 2023. So it lives in this project bag by This is a vintage Owl Lady bag, and I love this bag. In here lives Earth Goddess. Earth Goddess is by Joan Elliott, and this is my oldest Joan Elliott, I think. Yeah. So this I started in 2017, and so she will look like this finished, sort of, because my fabric is very different, and I am probably going to do a skin conversion if I can find my threads. I had purchased the Ymir Almond M&Ms, had dyed some silks a bunch of years ago, and I put them somewhere, and I don't know where that somewhere is. So anyway, so let me show you the progress. I worked on this for 3 days and got my yearly minimum of 1,000 stitches in over the course of those 3 days. And well, we gotta talk about something with this, which is pretty cool. So this is a 32 count Belfast linen in dried thistle by Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. It was from her Outlander sort of collection. So this is a dried thistle, and I thought it was spectacular for Earth Goddess. I love how the grains sing on it, and those deep rusty oranges in her skirts. I love it. I love it. Pat myself on the back. I'm pretty pleased with this fabric choice. So I almost have the skirt, at least the rusty oranges, done on the skirts here. There's just a little section here that I didn't quite get to. So 1, 2, 3 stitch, if you haven't seen this, has a section of downloadable PDFs. I have seen, I know Lizzie Kate is one of them, and Joan Elliott. And I had to try it out. I had to see if the downloadable PDFs, like how that worked. It goes in a pattern keeper. Oh my goodness. I was so excited. I was so geeked. I had to try it out. So I got the PDF for this one. My other Joan Elliott on the go is from a book, and so 1, 2, 3 Stitch does not have that one in a PDF, at least as of today. Hopefully, eventually, it will be, but in the meantime, I've got this one at least in PDF and in Pattern Keeper. So very cool. Obviously, the back stitch doesn't translate to PK, and the beads are not selectable, so they aren't listed in the materials list. They aren't selectable, but you can see where they are, and you can stitch them in accordingly, and all of the cross stitch works in. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It went in virtually seamlessly. The only thing I had to do was input the information for the Krynic, since that is considered a custom thread for these designs. Anyway, oh, love it. So if you have a freestanding Joan Elliott, like a leaflet chart, then you can potentially get the PDF from 1, 2, 3 Stitch. And I can tell you, it's PK compatible. At least Earth Goddess was. You know, I haven't tried any of the other ones. So, I can give you numbers, which is just so cool. So, like I said, I spent 3 days on this piece. I did 1,039 stitches in those 3 days, and I am now at 5,539 stitches complete of a total 12,677. So that brings me to 43.69% complete. I was surprised. I was surprised to find that I was at 40+%. Now, the stitch count is skewed a little bit because I oftentimes stitch my fancy people with scan 1/1, and I intend to do that with this one as well. So I will definitely have more stitches by the end of it, but original chart, 12,677. So that's what I got to with Earth Goddess. This one would make a really great option for break it up into 12 for next year. And I'm going to go ahead and pencil that in as a potential for that. Because as much as I have enjoyed using full coverage for that, I really miss like having a visible section to complete rather than a number of stitches. And so that's what I'll do with this one. I'll break up the height of it probably by 12 to see this finished by the end of next year. But I'm going to pencil this in as an option for that anyway. So that is what I got to with Earth Goddess. I had so much fun with that. And yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Now there's one more project that I have worked on. I did work on in those last few days of April. But it makes more sense to show it in the May section of things. So let's do some end of month statistics. Let's do some end of April stats. I began the month of April with 94 works in progress, and after no finishes, and 3 new starts, I finished the month with 97 works in progress. It's not a miserable number for me, but I would really like to bring it down. So we'll see about that. I had a really good month, a really good stitchy month, and I owe a good majority of this to SPRINGO. I did 21,713 stitches in April, and I had no 0 stitch days, which is the first for me this year. It's the first month where I have topped 20,000 stitches in the month, and it's my first month with no 0 stitch days, so that is pretty cool. I worked on 11 unique projects, 7 of which were for SPRINGO, 3 of which were new starts, and then Snowcastle. That should be 12 then. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that. My stats might be a little skewed. And then I was able to catch up on full coverage WIPGO. I have a WIPGO board that is dedicated to Snowcastle. I'm trying to get 32,000 stitches into that this year, and I caught up. I caught up both March and April, and walked into May a little bit ahead of the game. So that is really, really cool. I'm a big fan of that. So let's talk about WIPGO. I have a lot of WIPGO boards. My first one is a new start board. I'm going to insert pictures here so that you can see these boards. Is a new start board that I have all but abandoned. I have toyed with alternate ideas for it, but I think I'm just going to cut my losses, and I think I'm just going to scrap that one entirely. Because, yeah, I think that's the plan. My full coverage board, however, it looks so cool. It is the most, it's the most up-to-date one. So I'll insert a picture of that one here. I have both 500 and 1900 open. Those need to be accomplished this month, and I should be able to do that easy peasy. We'll talk about it in plans. Okay, my next board is my saddest. Well, no, it's not, but it's pretty sad. This is my organization board. So I talked about this at length at the beginning of the year / end of last year. I have a 5x5 calyx from IKEA that is basically my crafty calyx. And so I have a plan to go through each cube according to WIPGO and get that calyx cleaned up. And I haven't done basically any of that this year. Because I was shaky, I couldn't write, and so I have these project cards that I want to stick in every one of my projects, and I have been unable to do any handwriting to be able to fill out these cards. The shakiness has been resolved virtually completely, so I should be able to start picking that up and getting back on track with that. I toyed with the idea of changing my board there, or changing my goals to just getting the projects uploaded into Notion, because I am using Notion this year. But that's not enough. I want those project cards. I designed them and printed them and paid for them. So anyway, so that's the plan. The plan is to get on track with the project cards. So that's going to be a steady thing that I try to catch up on my organization board. I have a bookish WhipGo board, a BookGo board. I have 12 projects that were selected by folks on Instagram. I chose 12 recommendations from that. I have 6 of the books that have been on my shelves the longest and 6 of the books that have been on my shelves the least amount of time to create a WhipGo board that I have not done anything with. So I have a lot of catch up to do with this one. I doubt it's going to happen, but I'm going to try to focus on at least the 12 that were recommended by folks, because I have been so thoroughly unsuccessful with that I'd like to do that. So that's an easy one. And then my last WhipGo board is my newest one. So this is taking inspiration from folks who are doing Folks on a Finished WhipGo boards. WhipGo. Go on. Don't be a whip anymore. It just makes sense. And so I blacked out the spaces that were called for January through April. So I don't think I have the potential to get a bingo on this board at all, but that's okay, because the rewards for me on WhipGo bingos, they're kind of intrinsic motivators than like actual tangible rewards, if you will. So I blacked out, like I said, the January through April calls, and I have decided that did I put all of them on there? No. Okay, so I took my Year of Whips, for which I picked 12. I took out the one that I've already finished, and I took out Sweater Weather, and I randomly ordered this thing using random.org's list randomizer. And some of them were listed twice, but all of them I managed to get on here at least once. And so the goal is for these to work on them for 1,500 stitches or 4 days, whichever comes first, or to the finish if I feel like it. And so you will see here 5 and 19 are Lady Halloween and Promise of Spring. And I think Lady Halloween has another space and Promise of Spring has another place. So if 1,500 stitches or 4 days finishes those pieces, not likely, then I can replace their other two squares with a different one. But that is kind of my thought process there. This is jumping ahead a little bit into plans, but perhaps I will work on Promise of Spring and Lady Halloween at some point this month. I am not taking WhipGo super seriously this year, except for full coverage WhipGo. I want to see that goal accomplished. So this is some dedicated time for my Year of Whips. I have only had one finish so far in 2025, and I really need to get back on track with my finishes. So that is the WhipGo update, if you will. All right, so let's get into May. Let's get into the projects that I have worked on so far in the month of May. As mentioned, I am doing page finish May. I am prioritizing full coverage for, I think, the first 15 days is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prioritize getting some full coverage page finishes. As many as I can. It's looking like 4, maybe 5. Okay, so I had originally planned on putting basically all of my full coverages that I have active for this year on a wheel. And then if they were things that I could feasibly get a page finish in a handful of days, then I would work on them towards the page finish. And if they were things like Cherry Blossom Breezes and Ivory Crow that have over 5,000 stitches, then I was going to work on them for 1,000 stitches to the page finish, towards the page finish, but just give them some progress. So I'm added it all up, and it's too many stitches. It's too much. It's too much to accomplish. It's overreaching. And so those projects where I have so much to do in order to get a page finish, those are going to be holdovers. They're going to be things that I work on later on in the year, hopefully to those first page finishes, but they can't be the priority this month because there's just not enough time. So we have Snow Castle, and at the end of April, I had a whopping 80 stitches left to the page finish on that one. And then page 8 that I am about halfway through at this point. I had Haunted House with 1,300 stitches, April with 1,700, Sweet Summertime at 2,500. Sweater Weather is like almost 5,000 stitches, but that is one that is supposed to be my break it up into 12 for this year, and I haven't worked on it since February. So I left that in the mix, and I'm going to work on that for 1,000 stitches at a time and see how far I can get on it this month. Originally, I thought I was going to just spin and choose them randomly, and instead I am going with, I'm sort of doing this like, oh, what is it? What is this? Snowball. There we go. That's the word I was looking for, snowball. So I started with the one that was closest, and I am progressively working on those that require a little bit more stitching to accomplish. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned I've had 2 page finishes already, and that's just so very exciting. So let's get into it. We are going to start off with Snow Castle. So Snow Castle has been it's my full coverage focus for WIPGO. It is, I'm just obsessed, endlessly wanting to work on this one. So let me show you where I am at currently. This is still in the Q-snap. I am really, really enjoying the full coverage Q-snap stitching. It is working out very nicely for me. Plus, it's nice to give my Millennium frame a bit of a break. She is like 12 years old and needs a break. So anyway, so here is where I am with Snow Castle, and this little block down here, that was my last block of page 7 here. So let's see. I wrote this down. I finished page 7 on May 1st. I started page 7. I put the first stitches into page 7 on December 13th, 2022. So 2.5 years to finish that one little page. It took me 23 stitching days to finish page 7. To put that into perspective, I'm normally at 12 days for full coverage for a page finish, but yeah, this one took 23. Yep. So anyway, no real information to take from that other than just out of curiosity. So I have done, since my last video, 3,201 stitches on Snow Castle. And this diagonal that I'm working on will bring me to the bottom of the page, so I will have shrinking diagonals for this page. And I was going to stitch page 9 at the same time, but it's coming a little bit too close to this side, which is where I put my Lowry clamp. So it's just a little bit too tight for me to try to stitch page 9 at the same time. But what I may do is take this off the Q-snap, sew on a strip of fabric on the side here so that I can access this and then stitch them concurrently. So that may be something that I try to do here before too long. I am working on this. So I kind of made the decision to spend half time. So when I was doing Springo, I would do my 500 stitches on my Springo call, and then if I had stitchy time for the rest of the day, I would work on this. After Springo, I kind of did a noon breaking point where I would work on a different project in the morning and this project in the afternoon, or I would flip-flop them. I am in the routine right now. I get up pretty early. I get up around 5:30, 6 o'clock every day, just to get some quiet time, some quiet stitchy time in the mornings. So a lot of times I get a good amount of stitching before anybody else in my house wakes up. So sometimes I would prioritize this in the morning when I had that dedicated quiet time, or other things. So this is not getting daily attention at this point, but it's getting frequent attention. We'll go with that. Frequent attention. So that is where I am with Snow Castle. This is a 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart. I am stitching this 1/1 full cross with the called for DMC. I did swap out the DMC 310 for Anchor Black. I will insert, after I'm done talking here, before and afters for Snow Castle for the month of April, so that you can see that. And I'll put on the screen a total stitch count that I did on that in April, because I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's in the 4,000 range. I know that much to be true. Okay, my next full coverage piece that was next closest to a page finish. I got the page finish this morning. So that lives in this project bag. This is a brass button project bag. Gorgeous, super cute sloths out dressed for Halloween. So cute. And in here lives Haunted House. Haunted House is my largest project. Yep, this one's pretty huge. The total is 520,625 stitches. So this is my biggest. This is a Heaven and Earth design. The artist is Donna Gelsinger. And I started this on Friday the 13th in 2023. It was in October. So October, Friday the 13th. And like I said, I got my page finished this morning. And then some. And then some. So I was up late, trying to get the page finished before I went to bed, and I couldn't do it, because this bottom corner is a leaf, and the leaves are confetti. It's a nice break, but they are confetti. So I finished that up this morning, and then did the block up here, because I am participating in an event with the Daily 30 group, and we needed 1,300 stitches, and this worked out to about 1,200 when all was said and done. So I needed to do another block to hit 1,303 stitches. Again, 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart, 1/1 full cross called for DMC Anchor Black instead of 310. Page 1 is finished. Oh, so good. I'm obsessed with this piece. I really love it, which is a good thing, because I'm going to be at this for a really long time. This is not even a little bedspread. This is a big one. This is I could probably drape this over my tall 4-year-old and she would be covered. Yeah, this is a big one. So I am now at 8,006 stitches complete of that 520,625, which is 1.54% complete. Yep. This page took me 19 stitching days. 19 stitching days. Including yesterday and this morning. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited about it. It is so pretty. So I was looking at, I'll insert it here. I do my page grids, and I realized that stitching the pages in diagonals means that I have another 9 pages of tree. Another 9 pages of this tree. The whole piece, I think, is 81 pages. So 80 pages to go. I just have to repeat the last year and a half 80 times. Oh boy. Oh boy. The good news is this is just fun to stitch, and every stitch that I put in is a something. There is very little like blank space on this. I don't know. Fun. It's just fun. I love it. I'm so excited to have hit the page finish finally. So technically this piece is done for the year, but it is so huge that it needs some more love. Way more love than what I was able to give it. Oh, you can see the back. Oh wait, is that yeah, it's like that. There we go. It's chaos, yeah, but I like it. So that it feels irresponsible to put this one away for the rest of the year. So we'll see what I decide to do. And so that is everything that I have worked on. I put April on the frame. So April is by Anna Dittman. It's on my Q-snap now, set up on my Lowry, ready for me to stitch once I'm all finished here. But I didn't bring that because I can't show you the whole project because it's all packed up into my Q-snap, and so I will just have to show that to you next time when I hopefully get the page finished. If I am remembering correctly, this project stitches up fairly quickly when I work on it, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to something a little bit easier, especially following all of that confetti this morning. That is kind of bringing us into plans, and I have some plans here. I have some plans. Let me move some of this extra stuff because I've got paperwork. Okay, so a couple of things. Page finish May through the 15th-ish. So my plan is to work on things until I get the page finish on them, the page that I'm currently working on, the page that I am actively working on. So with April, I am working on page 8. With Sweet Summertime, I am working on page 1. And then Sweater Weather, the goal is at least 1,000 stitches, but I may just keep going with that through the 15th. The original Stitch Mania, which is the basis for Page Finish May, ran through the 15th. Some folks expanded out to whatever year it is, so this year it would run out to 2025. Stitch Mania was really 10 years ago. Wow, that one just hit me. That's something. Yep. Okay. Moving on. So some folks expanded out to the 25th, or to the year that it is at the time. I'm going to cut it off at the 15th because I have my small monthly goals that I would still like to try to accomplish this month. That I'm trying to get back on track with those kind of things, because I think I would like to, so I might as well try. And also the Focus on a Finished Whipco board that I would like to give it a try here in May. So I'm gonna end my Page Finish May on the 15th. See how far I get. Working alongside that is a couple of other rather fun events that I am gonna jump in on. The first one I heard about while watching Andy of the Crow Stitcher, and they were talking about this event created by Laura of I Stitch Birds. It is, it's based on the Giro d'Italia, which is essentially the Tour de France, but in Italy. There are 3 major bike races over the summer, and the first one, the Giro d'Italia, kicks off on May 9th. So when is the 9th? Next Friday. Yeah, so a week from yesterday is when the Giro d'Italia starts. And every year, the Full Coverage Fanatics group runs this event for the Tour de France, where we stitch the number of stitches equivalent to the number of kilometers that the racers bike each day. And so the thought process translates to the Giro d'Italia, and so they have a distance to go each day over the course of this bike race. And so Laura had the idea to translate into Stitchy Fun. And so I'm going to jump in on this. And the stitch counts range from 13, I think is the lowest that I'm seeing here, to 219, 227. 227 is the highest that I see. And so I'm going to put those stitches into Snow Castle. So I made myself a little sheet. It's just a basic table with the dates and the kilometers, and then I will write in the stitches done. So this is going to be Snow Castle. I will work on this, and I've decided to make Snow Castle my bike race stitchy game project for this year. So I will do this for the Giro d'Italia. I will do it for Tour de France and the La Vuelta. I think August, if memory serves. So yeah, so that's the plan there. And that kicks off, like I said, next Friday. So Snow Castle is going to get some daily progress starting next Friday. And so there is the possibility, might even go so far as to say probability, that I will finish page 8 this month, which would be very, very cool. Then I was watching Andrew the Runner Stitcher, and Andrew is about to start training for a marathon. He is running a marathon at the end of August, and so he has created a stitching event for those of us who are going to sit on the couch while Andrew runs all of these miles. And so he has a training plan for how many miles he's going to run each day as he builds up to running 26.2 miles at the end of August. And he is calling it Whip Into Shape. It is hashtag Whip Into Shape, so I'll put that on the screen here. And he's got a Google sheet where he has listed out his planned miles for each day starting from May 5th. And there's an asterisk there, and we'll talk about it in a second. So May 5th through August 31st. And so he's got the miles listed out that he's planning to run in training for each of the days. And then our task is to stitch 10 stitches for every mile that he runs. And so his plan is to go into the Google Sheet each day and update it so that we can know how many stitches to do on our Whip Into Shape project. Now, there are rest days built into this, so we won't have any stitches for those days. So there are going to be some days off throughout the course of the next 3 months, 3.5 months. Yes. So, and coincidentally, May 5th is one of those rest days. So technically it starts on Monday, but officially it starts on Tuesday, May 6th, when we have stitches to do. And I had to take it a step further. I am not multiplying by 10, I am multiplying by 26.2, because 30 stitches, I have a difficult time pulling out a project for just 30 stitches, and so I'm going to have a hard time pulling out this project for 78 stitches or 79 stitches, but 30 would just be, that would be very difficult. So I have stretched it out to, my multiplier is 26.2, staying on brand. And the math has me doing, by the end of this, 14,865 stitches, well, 14,866 stitches by the end. As I said, there's a lot of rest days And there are several days where the plan is to run more miles. Of course, as you're training, it builds. So there's a half marathon in here, and there's quite a few days of 10 or more miles. But the project that I picked for this, number one, could use 14,000 stitches in it, spaced out like this. And number two, like, getting 300 stitches shouldn't be too bad. So, what project did I pick? I haven't decided. I have two thoughts. This other project, so that I would have a separate project for somewhat daily stitching, or Snow Castle. And then at that point, my Snow Castle requirements each day through Giro d'Italia and Tour de France and La Vuelta would be in concert with Whip into Shape. And, you know, some days I could have 800 stitches called for. That feels excessive. So I am leaning towards this second project. Let me know. What do you think? What do you think I should do? Should Snow Castle get just a ton of work? 15,000 stitches plus whatever I do for the bike races. Or do I work on this other thing also? What are your thoughts? So, it lives in this project bag. This is a Be Busy bag. Be Busy is on Etsy, and so I will be sure to link in the description box. Super, super pretty. If you watch The Runner Stitcher, then you know perhaps why I chose Fruits of Plenty. So this is my Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I think, if I remember right, and I've watched quite a bit of FlossTube lately, but I think Andrew picked his Fruits of Plenty for this. And so I felt inspired to also choose Fruits of Plenty. Now, mine is sad by comparison. Hence, it could use the 14,000 stitches. I mean, it really could. It really, really could use the, we'll call it 15 grand. This design is humongous. Let me pull up Pattern Keeper because I have my Kindle here. Tell me what the total stitch count is. And I'm going to do the thing that everybody who looks at their Pattern Keeper on FlossTube does. I wish this was alphabetic. I would have such an easier time if I could just sort alphabetically. Okay. Sum total, Fruits of Plenty, is 47,000 stitches. So 15,000 will bring me to almost 17,000. Yep. That feels good. So this is a 40 count Newcastle linen in, I think it's Moonstone, something to that effect. Newcastle linen 1/2 with DMCs 3041 and 3042. Those are the colors that I chose for this. I haven't worked on this in a couple of years, and this is something that I started during Mania in 2021. And this was the stitch along that Modern Folk put out in 2021 that I got started late because I had a baby. And so yeah, so I think that this would be a good one to do for that. 15,000 stitches. That would be cool. That would be cool. So that is the thought that I have for Whip into Shape. This Snow Castle, or if you guys have another idea, I'm open ears. I'm open to hearing your ideas. But I personally have narrowed it down to between these two, but maybe you guys have a different idea for me. Ideally, it is something that will go into a Q-snap or a Nerge, and it is something that is on Pattern Keeper. Because my thinking is that, so Giro d'Italia is fairly simple. I'm not too worried about it. And for the most part, the same is true for whip into shape, except for the high mileage days. So my first high mileage day is the 17th, scheduled for the 17th. He may switch things around and I will adjust things accordingly. And that's 340 stitches on the 17th. So I'm not super concerned about it because Fruits of Plenty, Snow Castle, those projects are, it's fairly easy for me to get stitches in on those. So if you are going to make a suggestion for an alternate project for me to consider, let it be not like a Mira or Lettuce or Desjardins. As much as those projects could use 15,000 stitches, it's got to be something that I can easily get stitches in. Because the thought is that I will be working on a third project on these days. This feels like a lot. Saying it out loud, it sounds like a lot. If I'm going to try to do Snow Castle stitching for upwards of 200 stitches and then whip into shape for upwards of 300 stitches. I mean, the averages are much lower than that. And then something else. Giro d'Italia only lasts through the 21st of May. And there are, like I said, a lot of rest days built into whip into shape, which is why I'm attempting this. And if worse comes to worse, that I just abandon all of it, then I can do that too. That's kind of my thinking. I don't want to. I kind of want to do these things. I am in the mode of trying some different things. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm encouraged. I am encouraged to at least try. So that is for the plans, I think. And I still have Touching the Autumn Sky, Secret Stitch, Ragnarok, and Summer Sampler that I would like to get to this month if I can. Okay. All right. So that takes care of plans. And I do have one piece of haul that I'm going to show you here, but I'm not going to make a dedicated segment for because it's super fast. I had to order some needles. My needles, I was run out. I was down to my last new needle. For those of you who are new, there is something in my skin. I rust through needles. I go through them quickly, and as it gets warmer, I go through them even faster. Now that I am medicated for my hyperthyroid, I am not going through them as fast, but it's still fast. Anyway, so I had to get some needles, but some packs of needles can't be traveling alone. And so I ordered a chart that Carolyn over at Seazook Stitch has on the go, and I couldn't pass it up any longer. This is the Camberley Sampler by Rosewood Manor. I couldn't ignore it another minute. I love this. I think it's gorgeous. And it's a Rosewood Manor, so this is a book. But yeah, just super pretty. Super pretty. No plans or intentions to start that at any point in the near distant future. But that's it. That's it for the haul. I don't think I have anything else pending or on the way at this point. I am not doing a ton of spending right now when I can. So anyway, so I'm going to head off here. I'm going to get this edited and posted for you all. Thank you all so much once again for spending today with me. I appreciate it. Let me ramble on and on about my ideas aplenty. Yeah, and I'm going to get to stitching. I'm excited to get going with April and to getting that page finished. So happy stitching, everybody. As always, be kind. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.